Basic Math, Assessment 1, Review 1, Questions 4 through 8. In Question 4, you're asked to find the sum and to write your answer in a mixed number form and reduce if possible. Alright, so we'll start by separating out the 24 and the 8 from the problem. We have 24 plus 8, and this makes 32. On the other side, we'll pull out the fractions. We have 3/8 plus 4/5. Again, like with the subtraction earlier, we'll need to find a common denominator before we can sum these two together. If we look at the 8 and the 5, the common denominator would be 40. So I'll come down here and write 40. I got the 8 to 40 by multiplying by 5. So whatever I did to the bottom, I have to do the top of the fraction as well. So it'll also be multiplied by 5. 3 times 5 making 15. This is 15 over 40 is the equivalent fraction to 3 over 8. Now I'll come over here and I look at this 5. To get this 5 to 40, I had to multiply it by an 8. So I'll do the same to the 4 in the top. So 4 times 8, and I get 32. Now that I have the same denominator, I can sum the numerators together and keep that denominator. I have 15 plus a 32 to make a 47 over 40. Now, this is an improper fraction. I have a larger number on top than I do on the bottom. This means I can divide this bottom number into the top and keep the remainder. I take the 40 and I can divide it into 47. 40 into 47 will go one time with a remainder of 7. I take that 7 and put it back over the original divisor, so I have 1 and 7/40. I'll take this and bring it back over and add it back to the original 32, so that I have 32 from above, plus now the 1 and 7/40, which ends up equaling 32 plus 1 to equal a 33 and 7/40 for my final answer. In question number 5, it says compute the difference indicated and simplify your answer. So again, I have two fractions here that do not have common denominators. Before I can subtract them, I need to find a common denominator between an 8 and a 9. In this case, it would be 72, which is the same as simply multiplying the 8 times the 9. So to write the equivalent fractions for these, I write down a 72 minus my 72. And I look back to see how I got this 8 to a 72. I got that by multiplying it by 9. So whatever I did to the bottom, I have to do the top of the fraction. So I'll multiply my 6 by a 9 as well to get 54. On the other side, to create the equivalent fraction, I look at what I multiplied the 9 by to get 72. I multiplied it by 8. So I'll multiply the 2 by 8 as well to create a 16. Now I have the equivalent fractions and they have the same denominators. So now I'm ready to subtract these. So 54 minus 16 is going to equal out to a 38. And I carry over the denominators, which is 72. Now it also said in the instructions, simplify your answer. So if I can reduce this fraction, I'm going to go ahead and reduce it as well. First off, I see that they both end in an even number. That means they're both divisible by 2. So that's a good starting point. I'll divide both by 2 and then see if I can bring it down any more. So I'll divide by 2, divide by 2. Whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom so that I don't change the fraction. So 38 divided by 2 makes a 19. 2 into 72 makes a 36. Now I look at the fraction again to see if I can reduce it any further. 19 is a prime number. The only number that will divide into 19 evenly is 19 itself. So I check to see if 19 will go into 36. It will not. So this is my final answer. Question number 6 says to compute the sum indicated and simplify your answer. Here I have a 45 and an 18. So I need to find a common denominator. If I were to come over here and start listing some problems, starting with the 45, 1 times 45, I see that I have 45. 2 times 45, I'll see that this creates a 90. I don't want to make this list too long, because I also want to make a list for 18. I want to find a number that both 45 and 18 would go into evenly. So I'd come over here and do the same thing with the 18. As I listed down, I'd end up finding out the 18 also has a number that comes out to 90. That number is 5 times 18, which equals 90. So my common denominator is going to be a 90 here. So I'll write a 90 in. The 45 was made of 90 by multiplying it by 2. So I multiply the top by 2 as well. This creates a 26. I now come over and look at the other side. The 18 was multiplied by 5 to make 90. So the top gets multiplied by this as well. So 5 times 3 to make 15. I'm now ready to sum these together. 26 plus 15 is going to make a 41. Then I just carry over the 90. Looking at 41, there aren't any numbers that will divide into 41 other than itself. So I'll take that 41, I'll see if it divides into the 90 even. I see that it won't. Therefore, it's in the simplest form, so this will be my final answer. Question number 7 says, find the following quotient reduced to the lowest terms. So I have here a 3/8 divided by a 16 over 21. So I'm going to rewrite this as a multiplication problem. So I'll copy down the 3 over 8, change the division sign to a multiplication, and I will take the reciprocal of the following fraction. So I'll flip it over, 21 over 16. Now I'm ready to multiply these together. Before I do, however, I want to look and see if there's any way to reduce it down by looking across before I multiply. So I look at the 8 and the 21. 8 will not go into 21, so I look at the next smallest number that could go into my 8, which would be a 4. 4 will also not go into 21. The next smallest number would be a 2, and 2 can also not go into 21, so I cannot reduce the 8 and the 21. So then I look across at the 3 and the 16. My 3 is a prime number. The only thing that will divide into it is itself, and 3 will not divide into 16, so I can't reduce it this way. Lastly, I'll look at the fractions themselves and see if they can reduce. 3/8, again, nothing will reduce here, and the 21 over 16, again, nothing will reduce. So when I multiply these two together, I know that my answer is going to be in its lowest terms. So I'll multiply across. I have a 3 times a 21 to get a 63, and 8 times a 16 to get 128. And this will be my final answer. In question number 8, it says, find the indicated product and write your answer in a mixed number form. Reduce if possible. Before I do this, I'm going to turn my numbers, and I'm going to multiply from mixed numbers into improper fractions. I'm going to do this by taking the digit to the outside, multiplying it to the denominator, summing to that what's in the numerator, and then keeping the original denominator. So I'm going to take this 8 to the outside and multiply it to this denominator, this 13, and then I'm going to sum to that the 4 to get 108. Then I'm going to keep the same denominator, 13. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. 6 times 8 plus a 7 to get a 55 over the original 8. Again, before I multiply these together, I want to get it as reduced as possible. So I'm going to take this 13 and see if it goes into 55 evenly. I can see that it doesn't, so I know that I can't reduce these. Now I'm going to look at the 8 to the 108. I look to see if 8 will go in there. 8 will not divide into 108, so I'll take that 8 and I'll break it down to the next smallest number that will divide into 8, which is a 4. 4 will go into 108 and into 8. So I'm going to reduce this by dividing the 8 by 4 to make a 2, dividing the 108 by 4 to make a 27. Now I'm ready to multiply these together. The 27 times the 55, I'm going to get 1,485. On the bottom, 13 times 2, I'm going to get a 26. Now the instructions say to go ahead and write an answer as a mixed number form and reduce. Right now it's an improper fraction. So I need to put this back into a mixed number. So I will take the 26 and see how many times it divides in to the 1485. So 26 will not go into 1, so I move to its neighbor. 26 will not go into 14, so I'll move over one more place. 26 will go into 148. And I estimate about how many times it'll go in. I think it'll go in about 5 times, and I try it. If you're incorrect, you can always erase and go back. So 5 times the 6 to get 30. We'll carry that out. Then I have the 5 times the 2 to get a 10, plus the 3, so that makes 13. So I'll do my subtraction. I'm left with 18. Carry down the 5, and I'll have 185. So I'll go again. I already know that this number, 185, is a little bit larger than my other, so it's got to be more than the 5. So I estimate about how many times. Let's try 7. And we'll multiply the 7 through to the 26. We get 182. Again, do subtraction, and I'm left with 3. So 3 remaining, so I have 3 over 26. Now, I double check to see if I can reduce my fraction if possible. 3 is only divisible by 3, so I look at the 26 to see if 3 will go into it. It will not. So it's as reduced as possible. So 57 and 3/26 is my smallest possible value.